Hi, everybody. Do we have audio for this? I hope. Yeah, thank you. Hello, everybody. This is Marilyn, and it's time for the noon edition of Welcome to My World. This is the 10th of October, and it is a Monday, which also happens to be a U.S. and Canadian banking holiday, but the markets are open. So here we all are. Trading away. This morning, this has been a really interesting morning. We've had all of the indices, when you look at all of them together, they're pretty much on the same page, but this morning, TF was definitely leading the charge. It was very, very strong this morning. It's kind of backed off a little bit the last couple hours, but it looks like it might make another boost up later this afternoon. If you trade that, or if you trade any of the indices, YM is pretty much on the same page with TF. The slow one this morning, or the choppy chop one, has been ES, and I know a lot of people trade that on the Nadex. I don't know how many people in here trade that in futures, but it made for some kind of tough ticks to get this morning. The big mover this morning, there were a couple of them, but crude oil just, I mean, it just made a bolt upwards. And we might see crude oil continue this. I'm not sure how much higher it's going to go, but I know people come into this room at different times, and they see this as in a nice trend, and it's left settlement and the red ice, and so you're thinking, well, that might make a really good trade. Well, depending on what time, I mean, that started, at 5 o'clock in the morning, but if you're not part of the breakfast crowd that gets in here at 0:30, then the next thing is to be looking for an entry. And depending on what time, there were a number of entries right along here. There was one right here at this magnet I put on here. It's about $50. $50 is a psychological number for crude oil anyway in this environment. And there was a sling, and as Lori says, the slings, the best ones are the first ones in a run. So that was a possibility. And if you notice on the volume histogram, there's very low volume right here, so it's slowed way down right here. This could give you an entry. There was a touchback to the EMA here, which, if you're thinking that it's going to go up here to the blue, this blue line, the ice is right here, the green ice. So this is kind of jammed up right here. If you think, well, you definitely have enough ticks in room to get up there to make it worth your while. You had to kind of stay with the program here because it made another touchback. But then it continued on, so you could take it leaving the green ice, and you still had enough room for the next big street up here, which is this major magnet at 50.80. And then it went on. Typically, these crude oil bus drivers love the top of these range boxes. So it went, I would have thought, first to the deviation level and then to the range box. And then when you see a trend like this, and I don't care what market it is, and it puts an elevator in, which it's likely to do right over a major price level, like this deviation level, you definitely have a trade right there. That is a strong signal of a continuation of that move. And sure enough, it moved right on up to the next deviation level. So there were a number of places. You just have to understand where these entries are. Another place you could look to get a confirmation on those is this 6 tick, because 6 tick is happening half as in other words, it's going double speed, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But if you go back here to about say 7:30 or so, it was putting up painted E's, and it was giving very strong signals every time right here. If you could sit through the little pullbacks and keep in mind that you don't want to take every little thing, but if you missed any of these, every time the 6 tick put up an E, if you had you were actually trading off the 12 tick and just looking for an entry, sometimes the 6 tick is a good place to look. When it got up here on the 30-minute, it's easier for me to see it on the 30-minute, but when it got up here to this is an old sell zone right here at 51.56. I don't know how far back that went, probably a couple, well, it went back a far ways. But that's the great thing about these indicators. They do a lot of thinking for us. That would be a good place to be getting out, and today it just turned out to be right there at a deviation level, so that was pretty easy. The other thing that moved a whole lot this morning was bonds. It wasn't nearly as easy to trade, but it did have a significant drop off of the settlement. And so entries there were, you know, if you were up at dark 30 again, you had a couple of them, but it put an elevator in at the red ice. And so you just have to watch for these and enough until you start to see them. So sometimes gold will make these, I think there were a couple days last week, gold made real nice runs. And it has had some tradable trades today, but they weren't, I mean, you had, excuse me, you had to be paying attention. The VAD was very good to use with that today, as was the trend catcher entries. And all of the C's worked real well. So entries were around. When you see bonds drop off, or some of you like to trade the, I'm sorry, the gardener's running his weed killer or whatever that thing is. When you see bonds dropping, its little friend that it moves very closely with is the 6J, the Japanese yen. And I think I've mentioned several times about the Canadian dollar being the currency, the commodity currency for crude oil. So when you see crude oil like this, and you're thinking, I don't know, take a look at the Canadian dollar, because it moves pretty much in sync with crude oil. There is an enormous amount of the chattering class talking about crude oil and how it's going to go, you know, down to below 30 and it's not going to hold 50 and blah, blah, blah. They blah, blah quite a bit. But I can tell you this, West Texas is holding a significant contango. The February-March contracts are trading, in fact, March is trading 53.25 now. So clearly, the sentiment on crude oil is that this isn't exactly going to bargain basement anytime soon. The overall picture is that crude oil is hitting a significant level right about now around this 51.30-ish. And I'm not sure it's going to hold that or even break through without taking a little breather. These markets do, when they make you have to kind of think of them like, I don't know, some kind of a runner. When they make a big sprint, they're going to back off a little bit to catch their breath and then push on again. So, and also I will tell you that going into the afternoon with crude oil, there could be some selling. I mean, there's a lot of contracts that got bought making this huge run, and there will be some profit taking. So, you know, watch for that. I would not, unless you get a significant signal on your apex indicators, don't look to be taking a big massive trade down. It may or may not happen. And if you look at C's, this is just one little elevator choppy after another little elevator choppy right here. So, and bad is also telling us the same thing. So this might be a time to not be getting into a crude oil trade to the south side, and just kind of wait, see what happens here. The indices look like they might be the NQ looks like it might be going down for a little while this afternoon, and so does YM. But anyway, VIX is trading right now at 1354, and it was up over 14 early this morning. Tomorrow we're going to have, wasn't a heck of a lot of, you know, early morning news this morning, which is typical of Mondays. But tomorrow it's going to pick up a little bit. And for those of you who like to trade these Forex pairs, I would definitely look at the news trading tab on the Apex website, because I'm pretty sure there's some trades you can, Daryl lays those out very clearly, because there is news coming tomorrow from Europe and UK. Then at 8:15 we'll have CAD housing starts, and US at 10 o'clock is the labor market conditions index. Both of those are not hugely, they're kind of moderately significant. But later this week, there will be more significant news numbers being released. There are a lot of these central bankers all over the world that are talking right now. So, yeah. Craig's got some news about the oil market in California from Midland West. Anyway, we will see how all this plays out, but when you're actually trading, shut the talking heads out, because all they do is they get paid to talk. Just talk, and they get their paycheck. You don't. You get paid to be right. They don't have to be right. All they have to do is talk. So watch these indicators. They are, and oh, the other good thing is, it looks like we might all be getting a visit from Santa a little bit earlier than Christmas this year. So stand by for that. I know there is a tremendous amount of work going on with these programmers, and it's going to be, this is going to be happy when it gets pushed out. So no ETA, but they're targeting another maybe 4 to 6, 8 weeks right in there. So hopefully